The rusty nebula drifted silently through the asteroid belt, its worn hull reflecting the distant starlight in dull patches. Inside the bridge, Anya Petrova's fingers danced across the malfunctioning sensor panel as she coaxed the ancient equipment into cooperation. "Any luck with that scanner, Petrova?" Captain Marcus Thorne's gravelly voice carried across the bridge. Asked. "Negative," Anya replied. "Whatever power source is still functioning. It's running at the barest minimum." "Is it safe to board?" Thorne asked, already calculating the potential value of such a discovery. Anya ran several quick scans. Minimal atmosphere inside, near vacuum conditions, temperature hovering just above absolute zero. No detectable biological hazards, but I'd recommend full environment suits. "Prepare for boarding," Thorne announced. "Grok, you're on security. Vance, gather whatever scanning equipment you can carry. Petrova, bring your toolkit. We're looking at the discovery of a lifetime, people." As they suited up in the airlock, Anya found herself unusually quiet, contemplating the ancient vessel. Something about its design patterns triggered a strange sense of familiarity, though she was certain she'd never seen anything like it before. "You okay, Petrova?" Thorne asked, checking the seals on his environment suit. "Fine, Captain. I don't know. Excited, I guess. Keep that excitement in check. We follow standard salvage protocols. Safety first, then assessment, then retrieval." The 4 crew members exited the rusty nebula through its small auxiliary craft, navigating into what appeared to be a cavernous hangar bay within the ancient ship. As they touched down, their suit lights cut through the darkness, illuminating a space large enough to hold dozens of vessels their size. "Alara, any insights on the civilization that built this?" Thorne asked as they disembarked. "Nothing concrete yet," she replied, adjusting her portable scanner. "No match with any known historical records in my database," which itself is telling. This predates most documented spacefaring civilizations. They proceeded through the hangar, their boots occasionally disturbing the fine dust that had settled over millennia of abandonment. The scale of everything was immense, suggesting the original crew had been either very numerous or physically larger than humans. "Captain, look!" Anya pointed to what appeared to be symbols etched into a wall. They were angular, with repeating patterns that suggested a written language or possibly a form of mathematical notation. Alara immediately began recording the symbols. "This is incredible. A completely unknown language system." "Focus, people," Thorne reminded them. "We're here to assess the viability of salvage, not conduct an archaeological expedition." But even as he spoke, there was a note of wonder in his voice that belied his pragmatic words. They were walking through history, an intact, preserved relic of an ancient and advanced civilization. They continued deeper into the vessel, following Anya's readings toward the faint energy source. The corridors were vast and architecturally striking, with strange geometric patterns that seemed to serve both aesthetic and functional purposes. Occasionally, they encountered sections of collapsed ceilings or walls, forcing them to find alternative routes. "Structural integrity is compromised in several areas," Grok noted, his deep voice resonating through their helmet communicators. With practiced efficiency, he moved ahead of the group to clear debris or test questionable flooring. After nearly an hour of exploration, they reached what appeared to be a control center of some kind. Unlike the grand scale of the corridors, this room was smaller, more intimate, with what were clearly workstations arranged in a semicircle around a central pedestal. "This is it," Anya said, checking her scanner. "The energy signature is coming from somewhere beneath this console." She approached one of the workstations, studying its design. There were no obvious buttons or keyboards, just smooth surfaces with recessed geometric patterns. These interfaces, they're unlike anything I've ever seen, but somehow, without fully understanding her own actions, Anya reached out and placed her palm on one of the recessed areas. Nothing happened, but something about the configuration seemed to make sense to her, as if she were reading a familiar technical diagram. "Petrova, careful," Thorne warned. "Don't touch anything without." "I know what I'm doing," she replied, though in truth, She wasn't entirely sure why she felt that way. She knelt down and examined the underside of the console, finding what appeared to be an access panel. "I need to get inside this," she said, reaching for her toolkit. With careful precision, she selected several tools and began working on the panel. The material was unlike any metal sheet encountered before, incredibly durable, yet somehow responsive to her tools. "Captain, these alloys alone would be worth a fortune," she commented as the panel finally gave way, revealing a complex network of what could only be described as circuitry, though it bore little resemblance to modern systems. "Any idea how to power it up?" Thorne asked, peering over her shoulder. Anya studied the internal components, her mind racing. "Maybe. These look like power conduits. If I can connect our portable battery to them." She pulled a small emergency power cell from her kit and examined the ancient connections. "It might just work. Is that wise?" Alara asked, concern evident in her voice. "We have no idea what systems might activate or what their purpose might be. It's a diagnostic terminal," Anya replied with a certainty that surprised even herself. "It shouldn't trigger any major systems, just enough to get some information." Before anyone could object further, Anya made the connection. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a faint hum that they felt more than heard in the near vacuum, lights began to appear on the console surface. Soft, blue-white illumination spread through the geometric patterns, and a small holographic display flickered to life above the central pedestal. "By the stars," Alara whispered, staring at the alien characters that now hovered in the air before them. "How did you know that would work?" Thorne asked, his tone a mixture of admiration and suspicion. "I didn't," Anya admitted. "Not really. It made sense to me." The holographic display shifted, symbols changing rapidly before stabilizing into what appeared to be a star map of some kind. Alara moved closer, her scanner recording everything. "It's responding to our presence," she noted with excitement. "This could be an automated welcome protocol or an information terminal. Can you understand any of it?" Thorne asked. "Not yet, but the structural patterns suggest a logical, mathematical basis. Given time, I might be able to decipher some basic concepts." The small power cell began to flicker, its charge depleting rapidly. "Whatever you're going to do it fast," Anya warned. "Our power source isn't compatible with their technology. It's draining quickly." Alara worked frantically, capturing as much data as possible while the display remained active. Just as she finished, the hologram flickered and died, the lights on the console fading back to darkness. "Well," Thorne said after a moment of silence, "you got it running before lunch, Petrova. I'm impressed." Despite the flippancy of his words, there was genuine respect in his voice. Anya found herself smiling behind her helmet visor, a strange sense of accomplishment washing over her. "That was just a temporary connection," she said. "If we could find a ship's main power core or an auxiliary power center, I might be able to establish a more stable link." "Worth pursuing?" Thorne asked, looking at each crew member. "Absolutely," Alara replied immediately. "The historical and scientific value alone is incalculable." "Agreed," Anya added. "And the technological potential, if we could understand even a fraction of their systems." "Grok." Thorne turned to the security officer. The massive alien had been standing silently by the entrance. "Proceed with caution," he rumbled. "Something caused this vessel to fail. That something may still be present." Thorne nodded. "Valid point. All right, we continue deeper, but stay alert. Petrova, can you track a larger power source?" Anya adjusted her scanner. "Yes, there's definitely a concentration of that unique energy signature deeper within the ship. That way." She pointed down a corridor leading away from the control center. They proceeded with increased caution, aware that they were venturing farther from their escape route. The corridors became increasingly complex, with junctions and branches that suggested a vast internal network. "The architecture is following mathematical progressions," Alara observed. "Fibonacci sequences, golden ratios." These builders incorporated advanced mathematical concepts into their basic structural design. "Meaning?" Thorne asked, ducking under a partially collapsed doorway. meaning they thought differently than we do. Their minds were attuned to patterns and relationships we might only recognize academically. As they ventured deeper, the signs of ancient damage became more pronounced. Entire sections of corridor had been sheared away, revealing the composite layers of the ship's construction. In some areas, the walls bore marks that could only be described as weapons damage, blackened scars and molten deformations that had solidified millennia ago. There was a battle, Grok stated flatly, examining one such area. Internal conflict or invasion? After 5,000 years, does it matter? Thorne asked. If the threat still exists, yes, the security officer replied. They continued in tense silence until Anya's scanner gave sharp alert. The energy reading is much stronger now. We're close. They emerged into a vast chamber that could only have been an auxiliary engine room. Massive machinery, incomprehensible in design, but unmistakable in purpose, filled the space. Colossal conduits ran along the walls and ceiling, converging at what appeared to be a central power distribution. Note, this is it. Anya breathed, her scanner showing intense activity. There's still active energy here, just dormant or in some kind of standby mode. She approached the central node, her engineer's instincts now fully aligned with the strange familiarity she felt toward the ship's systems. I think I can activate this section without triggering the main engines. It would provide enough power to run basic systems, maybe access the ship's database. Potential risks? Thorne asked, always cautious despite his adventurous streak. Unknown, Anya admitted. But whatever power source they used has survived 5,000 years in a dormant state. That speaks to incredible stability. Or it's about to catastrophically fail, and we're standing at ground zero, Ilera countered. The energy readings are stable, Anya insisted. Weak, but consistent. I believe this is a self-containing system designed for longevity. Thorne considered for a long moment. Do it, he finally said, but be ready to evacuate at the first sign of trouble. Anya nodded and set to work, examining the distribution node's external controls. Unlike the previous console, this system was clearly designed for maintenance access. After several minutes of careful study, she identified what appeared to be an activation sequence in the geometric patterns. Here goes, she said, taking a deep breath. She pressed her hands against several points in a specific sequence, guided more by intuition than knowledge. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a low vibration began to build, resonating through the deck plates beneath their feet. Lights activated in sequence along the conduits, spreading outward from the central node like a wave of illumination. It's working, Ilera exclaimed as systems throughout the chamber began to power up. The air around them stirred as environmental systems activated, vents opening to begin the slow process of repressurization. Status displays illuminated across the machinery, showing alien symbols that scrolled and changed as the systems performed internal diagnostics. Remarkable, Thorne murmured, watching as the ancient technology returned to life under Anya's guidance. I'm reading power distribution extending to adjacent sectors, Anya reported, checking her scanner. Lights, environmental controls, data systems, all coming online within a 100-meter radius. How is this possible? Ilera asked, moving to examine one of the now active displays. No technology should function after 5,000 years of dormancy. These builders, Anya replied, her hands still working across the control interfaces they designed for permanence. The materials, the redundancies, the self-maintaining systems. They built this ship to last forever. A sudden alarm from Grok's scanner interrupted their wonder. Energy spike, he reported tersely. Something's responding to our activation. Before they could react, a section of the chamber wall that had appeared solid reconfigured itself, components sliding away to reveal a hidden compartment. From within, a mechanical construct emerged, a floating, spherical drone approximately 1 meter in diameter, covered in the same geometric patterns that adorned the ship. Nobody move, Thorne ordered, his hand moving instinctively to his sidearm. The drone hovered silently for a moment, then emitted a series of tones and light patterns. A beam of light extended from it, scanning each of them in turn. I think it's an automated security or maintenance system, Ilera whispered. It's assessing us. When the scan reached Anya, the drone paused, its lights pulsing in a different pattern. It emitted a new series of tones, then projected a holographic display similar to the one they had seen earlier, but more complex. It's responding differently to you, Petrova, Thorne noted, his hand still on his weapon. The hologram shifted, showing what appeared to be a DNA helix, then a comparison between it and another genetic structure. Beside this display, anatomical diagrams appeared, one clearly human-like, the other taller, with subtle differences in proportion and feature. It's comparing your genetic structure to something in its database, Ilera realized. Anya, I think you might have some genetic markers that are similar to the builders of this ship. That's impossible, Anya protested. They lived 5,000 years ago. Not impossible, Ilera countered. Just improbable. Many ancient spacefaring races visited Earth throughout history. Some may have left more than cultural artifacts behind. The drone made a sound that almost resembled satisfaction, then retracted its scanning beam. It hovered closer to Anya and projected a new hologram, a three-dimensional map of the ship, with one section highlighted. I think it wants us to go there, Anya said, studying the map. That's the central command bridge, if I'm interpreting this correctly. Could be a trap, Grok warned. Or an invitation, Ilera countered. If it wanted to harm us, why provide a map? We proceed, but carefully, Thor decided. Petrova, you've established some kind of rapport with these systems. You take point, but stay in communication range. With the drone floating silently beside them, they followed the indicated path through corridors that now hummed with renewed energy. Lights activated as they approached and dimmed after they passed, as if the ship were conserving its resources. The ship is becoming more active the longer we're here, Ilera observed. It's like it's gradually waking up after a very long sleep. The question is, Thorne replied, do we want it fully awake before we understand what happened to it? They reached a massive set of doors that parted silently at their approach, revealing the bridge of the ancient vessel. Unlike the utilitarian design of the engine room, this space was almost cathedral-like, with soaring ceilings and panoramic viewports that would, when in space, have provided a commanding view of the surrounding stars. The drone moved ahead of them, interfacing with the central command station. Displays activated around the bridge, showing star charts, system diagnostics, and numerous data streams incomprehensible to the salvage crew. It's bringing the main systems online, Anya said, watching in awe. Not just this section, the entire ship. A larger hologram appeared in the center of the bridge, showing a humanoid figure. It was taller than a human, with elongated limbs and a head slightly larger in proportion, featuring 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Its skin had a faint luminescence, and patterns similar to the ship's geometric designs adorned its body. The figure spoke, producing sounds unlike any language they had heard before. After a moment, it seemed to recognize their lack of comprehension and switch to a different mode of communication. Complex mathematical equations and universal physical constants began to appear in the air around it. It's trying to establish a basis for communication, Ilera explained, her academic excitement overtaking her caution. Starting with mathematical universals that any spacefaring species would recognize. Can you respond? Thorne asked. I can try, she replied, stepping forward. Using her scanner, she projected simple mathematical responses, confirmations of the equations and additions to the sequences. The holographic figure seemed pleased, its luminescence brightening. The communication evolved rapidly from mathematics to simple concepts, representations of stars, planets, and spacecraft that both species would recognize. This is incredible, Ilera breathed. We're establishing first contact with a species that has been extinct for millennia. Not extinct, the hologram suddenly said in heavily accented but recognizable English. Dormant. Everyone froze in shock. You understand our language? Thorne asked cautiously. Learning rapidly from your devices and vocal patterns, the hologram replied. Adaptive linguistics matrix functioning within acceptable parameters. Who are you? Anya asked. What is this ship? The hologram turned its 4 eyes toward her. I am an interface construct, a repository of knowledge and guardian of this vessel. You may call me the Archivist. This ship is the Celestial Architect, a stellar cartography and seeding vessel of the progenitor fleet. Progenitors? Alara questioned. Those you might call the architects, the hologram explained. Travelers, builders, cultivators of potential. We charted the stars and seeded compatible worlds with our genetic material, allowing evolution to take its course. Earth, Anya said suddenly. You visited Earth. Many worlds were visited, the archivist confirmed. Your genetic markers indicate partial compatibility with progenitor patterns. A distant descendant, perhaps one of many. What happened to this ship? Thorne asked, getting to the practical matters. Why was it abandoned? The archivist's luminescence dimmed slightly. Not abandoned. The Celestial Architect was attacked by the Void Heralds, entities that exist in opposition to our purpose. The battle was devastating. Emergency protocols were enacted. The crew entered stasis within the genetic preservation chambers, while I maintained minimal systems until rescue or recovery became possible. For 5,000 years, Alara asked incredulously. Time was of no consequence, the archivist replied. The mission was paramount. And the crew? Grok asked, speaking for the first time since entering the bridge. They still exist. In stasis, yes. 127 progenitors remain in suspended animation, their consciousness and genetic patterns preserved. The implications of this revelation stunned the salvage crew into momentary silence. They weren't dealing with an ancient relic or abandoned technology. This was a living vessel with a surviving crew, albeit in stasis. We need to help them, Anya said immediately. Thorne held up a hand. Slow down, Petrova. This is beyond our capabilities. We're a salvage crew, not a rescue operation. But Captain, she's not wrong. The archivist interrupted. Full revival would require resources you do not possess. However, your assistance so far has been valuable. You have initiated the recovery sequence that I was unable to activate alone. What does that mean for the ship? Thorne asked cautiously. The Celestial Architect can now begin self-repair protocols. In approximately 300 of your years, full functionality should be restored. 300 years, Alara repeated. That's remarkably efficient for a ship this size with this much damage. The true value of your intervention, the archivist continued, focusing on Anya, is the connection you have established. Your genetic compatibility has allowed systems to recognize you as an auxiliary crew member, granting access that would otherwise remain restricted. A warning alarm suddenly blared from Grok's scanner. Multiple vessels approaching, he reported. High-speed, combat configuration. The archivist reacted immediately, bringing up external sensor displays. Several ships were indeed approaching the asteroid, their designs sleek and predatory. Scavengers, Thorne spat. They must have detected our power-up sequence. More concerning, the archivist interjected. Their energy signatures contain Void Herald harmonics, descendants or collaborators of our ancient enemy. They're after the ship, Anya realized. They must have detected its awakening. Correct, the archivist confirmed. The Void Heralds sought to destroy all progenitor vessels and erase our influence. If these are indeed their descendants, they will attempt to complete that mission. We need to get back to our ship, Thorne ordered. Now, wait, Anya protested. We can't just leave. Not now that we know the truth. We don't have a choice, Thorne countered. Those ships outgun the rusty Nebula 100 to 1. Our only chance is to slip away while they're focused on the Celestial Architect. The engineer speaks with wisdom beyond her years, the archivist said. Your departure now would indeed be premature. What are you suggesting? Thorne demanded. The Celestial Architect possesses defensive capabilities that can be brought online with proper authorization. Engineer Anya Petrova has established sufficient genetic compatibility to activate these systems. A new holographic display appeared, showing what appeared to be weapon emplacements hidden throughout the asteroid surface. These are automated defense platforms, the archivist explained, designed to protect the vessel during its dormancy. They remain functional, but require manual activation due to safety protocols. You want us to fight? Thorn asked incredulously. I want you to survive, the archivist corrected. As do I and the sleeping crew I protect. Our interests align in this moment of crisis. Anya stepped forward, studying the defensive system diagram. I can do this, she said with newfound confidence. The interface makes sense to me now. I understand how their systems work. Thorn exchanged glances with Grok and Alara, weighing their options rapidly. How long would it take? He asked finally. Minutes, Anya replied. The systems are ready, just awaiting authorization and targeting parameters. Do it, Thorn decided. Grok, get back to the Rusty Nebula and prepare for emergency departure. Vance, continue gathering all the data you can. We may need to make a very quick exit. As Grok departed, Anya worked with the archivist, her hands moving across the alien interfaces with increasing confidence. Displays responded to her touch, and hidden connections seemed to form between her mind and the ship's systems. Remarkable adaptation, the archivist commented. Your neural patterns show accelerated compatibility with our interfaces. It feels natural, Anya replied, surprised by her own abilities. Like I've worked with these systems before. Genetic memory, Alara suggested, recording everything she could. Some theorize that certain skills or affinities can be passed down through generations at a genetic level. Incoming ships have detected our signatures, the archivist announced. They're preparing weapons systems. Defense platforms online, Anya reported, completing the activation sequence. Targeting systems active. The architect can now protect itself. On the external displays, they watched as hidden compartments throughout the asteroid's surface opened, revealing energy weapons of incredible sophistication. The approaching vessels hesitated, clearly detecting the sudden threat. They're reassessing, Thorn observed. Good. That gives us time to get back to our ship. Wait, Anya said, her attention caught by another display. The archivist is right, we can't leave yet. Look at this. She brought up a new hologram showing a detailed scan of their own vessel, the Rusty Nebula. The display highlighted numerous structural weaknesses and system failures. Your ship cannot outrun those vessels, the archivist stated. Its propulsion systems are operating at 38% efficiency. Structural integrity is compromised in 17 locations. Tell us something we don't know, Thorn muttered. I can help you repair it, the archivist offered. The Celestial Architect possesses fabrication capabilities that can produce compatible components for your vessel. Why would you do that? Thorn asked suspiciously. Because I require assistance that only you can provide, the archivist replied. The defensive systems will deter the current threat, but they are limited. Once fully awakened, the Celestial Architect must relocate to a secure position to complete its repairs and eventually revive the crew. You want us to help you move this entire ship? Alara asked incredulously. No, I want Engineer Petrova to help me navigate to a preset sanctuary location. The rest of you would be free to depart in your repaired vessel. All eyes turned to Anya, who stood frozen in shock. Me? Stay behind. Your genetic compatibility makes you uniquely qualified, the archivist explained. The journey would take approximately 3 of your months, after which you could be returned to any coordinates of your choosing, with compensation commensurate with your assistance. What kind of compensation? Thorn asked, ever the pragmatist. Technology transfers is sufficient to upgrade your vessel beyond current Galactic Alliance standards. Knowledge databases on resource-rich but uninhabited systems. And artifacts of progenitor design that would ensure your financial security for many lifetimes. The bridge fell silent as they contemplated this extraordinary offer. It's your decision, Petrova, Thorn said finally. But whatever you choose, we need to move quickly. Those ships won't stay back forever. Anya looked around the ancient bridge, feeling the subtle pulse of the ship's systems through her fingertips where they rested on the console. There was a rightness to being here, a connection she couldn't fully explain but couldn't deny either. I'll stay, she decided. Help the archivist navigate to safety. But first, We need to repair the rusty nebula so the rest of you can leave safely. A wise decision, the archivist acknowledged. I have already begun fabrication of the necessary components for your vessel's repair. Engineer Petrova, if you would accompany this drone to the manufacturing center, we can expedite the process. A small maintenance drone detached from a wall panel and hovered expectantly near Anya. Captain, she asked, looking to Thorne for final approval. He nodded, a complex mix of emotions crossing his weathered face. Do what you need to do, Petrova. We'll prepare the nebula for the upgrades. As the defensive platforms held the hostile ships at bay, the next few hours passed in a flurry of activity. Anya worked alongside the archivist's drones, fabricating replacement parts for the rusty nebula that incorporated progenitor materials and design principles. Meanwhile, Ilera downloaded as much historical and scientific data as the archivist would allow, creating an unprecedented archive of ancient knowledge. When they finally reconvened at the rusty nebula, the difference was striking. The salvage vessel's hull gleamed with newly integrated patches, its engines hummed with renewed efficiency, and its systems operated with a smoothness that Thorne had never experienced in all his years commanding the ship. She's better than new, he admitted, running a hand along a freshly fabricated control panel. These materials, I've never seen anything like them. Composite alloys designed for longevity and adaptability, Anya explained. The archivist says they'll actually strengthen over time as they integrate with the existing structure. The moment of departure arrived too quickly. Standing in the hangar bay where they had first entered the ancient ship, the crew of the rusty nebula prepared to say goodbye to their engineer. You're sure about this? Thorne asked one final time. 3 months is a long time to spend alone on an alien vessel. I won't be alone, Anya replied with a smile. The archivist is quite the conversationalist once you get to know it. And besides, this feels right. Like something I was meant to do. Ilera stepped forward and embraced her. The data you've helped us recover will revolutionize our understanding of galactic history. Be careful and keep detailed records. I want to hear everything when you return. Grok simply nodded, his yellow eyes conveying respect that words couldn't express. We'll rendezvous at the coordinates you provided in 3 months, Thorne said, extending his hand. Don't be late, Petrova. She took his hand and shook it firmly. The celestial architect was built for punctuality, Captain. We'll be there.